Hey, kind of like these.
Hey guys, this is Mr. Markman with Unlimited Possibilities Martial Arts. Okay, so what we're going to do today, we're going to get into more of the nunchuck stuff. We really haven't done a full video on nunchucks yet. So, and by the way, you guys see my background. Don't make fun of it. Okay, we had a Valentine's thing in here, so that's why we got all the hearts and stuff like that. It's a few days after Valentine's Day, and we haven't taken it down, so keep those comments to yourself. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so what I want to do starting off is get into the kind of types of nunchucks that you can use. You have some nunchucks that they consider like more like a speed chuck, or being maybe smaller with a smaller chain or rope. I like chain better, but rope is better for the beginner. You have long chain or long rope, which is more for self-defense. It's actually more for combat. It's more combative. The short one is more for tricking and that kind of fun stuff. And then the longer rope, the longer it gets, the more it's more combative. It's supposed to be more combative. Or you could say is Japanese style nunchuck, which is where the word nunchuck comes from technically. Japanese style nunchuck has got a smaller chain or rope than a Chinese, is going to be a little bit longer, but that's because of the way they do combat, how they approach it. But we're not going to get into that today. So I've got two different types of chucks right here. One that I have, this is my foam chuck, so this is soft. However, it can still hit pretty hard, so it would actually hurt somebody pretty good. The other one that I have this is my hard chuck. So as you can tell, it's actually made of hard, really, really hard material. It's like a hard plastic, or very hard plastic. It hurts if you get hit by it. So very, very painful if you were. But when you first start out with nunchucks, you really need to start out with obviously the soft ones so that you don't hurt yourself, because it's not fun if you get hit with one of these. So we're going to start off with this one. Maybe I might use those later, I don't know. So like I said, you can tell this one's kind of an older pair, but the rope, or sometimes their chain in the middle, it's kind of short. Okay, it's not really short. It's not like speed chucks would be like this short, really small like this, right? So those are ones that you can use for tournaments to really spin and all that kind of stuff. But these are pretty good too. These are sort of similar. You can still use them to spin. Now, originally, back in the old days, nunchucks were used as, just like any weapon, we're using it as an extension of the body, okay? So the way they looked at the nunchuck was that it was more like, it was a flexible weapon, what they considered, because they had weapons that were non-flexible and weapons that were flexible, or weapons that were rigid, or however you want to say that. So this was much more of a flexible weapon where you're throwing it out and it's able to bend and turn and go different directions, right? So when we use the nunchuck, it's very important as far as safety wise that when you learn how to swing properly, okay? And what I mean by that is if I extend it out, I can control the direction that it's going first. First I can control it. See how I can make it nice and straight? You see that? I can control that. If I were going like this and it was going like that, that's obviously not controlled, right? So I gotta be able to extend and the way you control it is by your elbow extending out. This is how you do it, extending out. So it's not that hard, but you have to get used to the direction. so you don't hit yourself, because if you're not paying attention, you're gonna do this, right? You're gonna hit, it's hard for me to hit myself, that's funny. But you're gonna hit something, shins, knee, that's bad when you hit your knee. Shins too, but I have hard shins. Groin, that really stinks. Actually, I was messing around with my 3-section the other day, and I hit my groin doing a special trick, and it was not fun. So you have to really watch that. You also, sometimes, depending on what the move is, you have to watch, especially if you're going up, if you're spinning up, you gotta make sure you're always extending the chuck in front of you if you're spinning in an upward motion, okay? Make sure you extend it out. You don't want it in when you go up. You can see why, because it's gonna obviously hit you, right? So you want to extend it out when you're going in an upward motion. When you're going in a downward motion, same thing. You still want to extend it out, okay? Upward motion, you're going up, and if you're going down, you still want to extend it out. You don't want to bring that too close to you, otherwise you'll get the right in the head, right? So it's important when you're first learning chucks to start with your elbow bent, extend forward just like this. And this is the base movement like that, okay? And then you can do it from the side. We talked about that. On the video, we went here, but this is just like you're extending your elbow and coming out like this. This is the slow way to do it. If I was gonna do it, I would actually do it a little bit faster. But I'm extending and pushing, making a small circle with my hand, as you can see, and I'm coming out. I can come fast, okay? I also had someone ask on the video, they were like, why are you holding them so low? Aren't you supposed to hold them up here? You are supposed to hold them up here if you're doing fancy stuff, especially when you first begin too, also. When you first start, it's better to hold them up here because you'll have more control. But when you're using them in combat, combative is down here. You actually, the reason why is because you've got the length to hit. If I hold them here and I swing them like this, my length becomes very small. I can't do big swings like this and control it. You see how I'm hitting myself? It's very hard to control it holding up tight. But when I have it down here, I can do big strikes and control the energy. I can speed it up and slow it down at the very end. Okay, and that's something you have to master if you're gonna do nunchucks, because if you don't know how to go fast out and slow it down, right? Or I come fast out and slow it down here so it doesn't whack me. That's something you have to practice very slowly like this. See how that control, I can get it to stop right here. It doesn't even come close to me. Stop right here. Or I can get it to come and touch me. That's me controlling it. Okay? Just barely touching, right? So you've got to learn how to do that fast without it hitting you. Does that make sense? So that is the control that you have to be able to get. Okay? So that takes some time to kind of develop. Now we got kind of a little bit more of the fancy movements where you're circling. You can do this. Again, we talked about upward. This is what I'm doing right now. So I'm coming upward like so on the inside. You can go upward on the outside. Okay. And then you can go downward on the inside. And you can go downward on the outside. Okay, those are some basic movements that you can do. If you want to do it with the other hand, you can do that too, and you can switch those around. Now, once you've gone upward and downward on both sides, then you want to try and do a figure eight nice and slow. So this is only to get kind of the dexterity of the motion of the weapon, okay, if you see what I'm doing. And again, I'm holding it down here because then I'll have more ability to extend and strike. If I'm sparring with this, I am not going to hold it right here. I'll get knocked out sparring with it, holding like that. I will spar with it here, okay? Or sometimes I even do this. Sometimes I'm really crazy and I'll hold it like this, but don't do that. That's just me. It's best to hold it like this so you have full grip and you can swing and reach out. So you've got this ability to hold. And the grip, this is important too. So when you're gripping the nunchuck, you don't want to grip it. When I train sticks, we train students to grip it like this with the wrist straight. Nunchucks, you don't grip like that. You actually want to grip this way where I'm grabbing here instead of here. If you notice the difference, here versus here, okay? This is how you want to grab it with the nunchucks because that gives you the ability to extend the chuck out. If I grab like this, I lose control. See what I mean? This is how I would strike with a stick. I'd strike with a stick like this. With a nunchuck, I extend. It's almost like I'm using these two fingers to strike with. Does that make sense? Okay, so nunchuck is more striking this way. All right, now the other thing is what they kind of rocking off your body techniques, right? Where you're doing these moves where you're rocking off your body. What that allows you to do is just transition. That's all it's for. It's not to be fancy and just to go, that's not what it's for. It's actually to transition your moves. So if I strike you and I hit off of here, then I can come back and strike again, or I can hit down here and strike up, or I can hit here and strike back up very quickly, or I can come around and strike like this, and I can bounce. It's like I'm bouncing off my body. I don't know if you can see that, but what I'm doing is I'm taking the chuck and bouncing it off. That's creating a reaction so I can easily strike off that move, if that makes sense. So slowly, I'm actually pushing off, right? And so when you do this, you're kind of learning that you can use the body, right? You go up and down. So if we start, this is what I call A. We just call this the A position. And then what we call B is cross body. Okay, then C is just going across the waist. And then D is the one that everybody thinks is crazy, but that's the one where you go from shoulder to the inside of the thigh. So this is D. Now I'm going to the inside of the thigh, if you guys can see that. Inside of the thigh. I'm not going like this. Not going to the groin, I'm going to the inside of the thigh here. Okay, and it's wrapping around, it's not hitting the thigh, as you can tell. You would, if it was hitting the thigh, you could hear it. That's what it would sound like if it hit the thigh, right? But it's wrapping around the thigh. Okay, actually right here hitting the back of the pants there. So those are this is what we, just what we call it, A, B, C, and D. Now, these are just different ways to be able to, and then this would be a triangle in Taekwondo, like this. So you're going across the body, back here, and then back up to the shoulder. Cross, here, and then back up to the shoulder. And so those are some basic moves that you can do. Now there's way more, a lot more moves than that, but those are basic moves that you can do. Now, when you do these basic moves, if you're going to practice hitting with chucks, like actually hitting something, you need to first get a pad, right, and practice on a pad. So, like let's say for instance, I'm going to practice on this here, right? I'm going to hit like that. Okay, so when I hit, I've got to be able to hit in a way where I'm not going to hit myself, where it's not going to go whoop and come back and hit me in the face or something. So I strike in a way where I can strike or maybe I can hit again. Maybe I can hit again. I'm beating up a chair, but you guys get the basic idea. So now, these are different something, okay? It's a big difference. This hits and kind of slides off and plows it and bounces back a little. Where those, because they're so light, they bounce back a lot more. So I have to hit really hard for them not to bounce back a lot, if that makes sense. But these, which I'm not going to hit anything with, but these will not bounce back. So that, well, depends. If you hit rubber, they will bounce back and hit you in the face. So it depends on the surface. You don't want to go and hit a rubber tire with these. That would be a bad idea, okay? You do want to, like if you're striking skull or something, that's different, right? This could chip skull, this really good, and it would not be good. But if you're striking wood, this would strike a piece out of the wood, and you wouldn't get the huge bounce back. You get a little tiny, but not the huge. Okay, I'm not going to demonstrate that today. I might demonstrate that maybe when we're outside or something like that. In here, it's not the greatest idea to do. So anyway, those are some basic ideas of nunchuck And we'll do a part 2 later, maybe, if in the comments you say, we want more. If you want more nunchucks, then I'll do more nunchucks. Like I said, later I want to do, I probably mentioned this before in some of the other ones, but I want to do a 3-section staff. I want to do some sparring with the different weapons and stuff like that, just to show you guys how we do sparring. That's probably going to be mainly for instructors, because I've had some ask me, how do you do sparring with weapons? And so to kind of help them, show them the way that we do it in class. So, and it goes really well. But anyway, so we'll see you guys on the next video.